And we should be live. Hi everyone. I'm here with Spurlie of the Juggernaut Wargaming Podcast.
Yeah.
Yay! Hi Spurlie. Uh,
Hello.
so you recently TO'd along with Dan Lane from also the Juggernaut podcast. You TO'd the WTC. And
Yes. Yes, we
and
did.
what was your role and how are you feeling here after it?
So I kind of do. I've got my fingers in a few different pies when it comes to the WTC.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of work around trying to source price support for everyone, so everybody goes home with something.
Mm.
But then during the event itself, kind of just doing the whole TO job. People have got questions,
Yeah.
trying to answer them as quickly as possible for them.
Yeah.
Saying whether yes, you can see that model. No, you can't see that model. Seems to be the main thing. And then
That for me that because there were very few calls for a ruling as I heard it, right?
yeah,
So
rules
most of it was
questions were
just, can I see?
rule questions were quite few and far between. Um,
Nice.
One common one that we had on quite a few finish tables
Mm.
was there: can his small arms fire past the consummate?
Yeah.
It's like, well, yes. Yes, the rifle can pin it, but it can't damage it. So
So you can. Yeah.
yeah, that one probably came up in 4 or 5 of the 6 rounds.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
not all of them though were people playing against Corey with all of his consonants. So it would have been a bit boring
34
for him.
order dice
Yeah.
spam. Yeah. Right. And you also you were also the one who actually did the typing for most of
Yes.
the scoring.
Yeah, I ended up being the data man.
Yeah.
So yeah, where everybody ended up was on my shoulders. So if anybody had bought me a pint, they might have come better off on the table. But nobody did. So
Oh, that sucks. Where is
yeah,
the bribes when you need them?
that's it. I rely on those bribes.
Yeah, we live for those.
Yeah.
Sorry I didn't bribe you enough to win the event myself. So,
You gave it a
anywho,
good shot, though. Definitely
I
gave it a
did.
good shot.
Yeah, I did. Um, but Spurlie, if for those of you who don't know it, also recently put out as the IGE admin, he put out a bunch of statistics, which would like I had a little bit of a moment where I had to go and sit down because I was just overexcited. And he's going to talk us through all of that today.
Yeah. Exciting is one word for it. I'll give you that.
Statistics can be exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
This side of the statistics is brilliant. Looking at what we've
Yeah.
got.
Making them not too much.
Yeah. Making them, trying to work out what it is you actually want to know as well
Yeah.
is, it can be a drag sometimes.
And I saw Alessio type in, can you give me this information? You were like, no.
Yeah. Well, I should hopefully have that actually in the next couple of days because we've still
I've
got.
compiled a bunch of it. So
Yeah.
I'll send it
I've,
to you what I
I've
have.
still got all the score sheets. And Nick from the Wales team, he's actually asked for like copies of them all, and he's going to digitize it and send it back to me.
Yeah.
So,
and Nick has also got my because I compiled which players played what lists.
Yeah,
I have like 80% of that. Not completely done, but I have 80% of it. So
it's a bit trickier this year because of the 5-list 4-man format.
Yeah.
Trying to keep, because previous years you walk around in the first game, you know what list everyone's playing.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Whereas this time you walk around and everything's changed every round.
Yeah. Anywho, show us what you've got, and we shall talk about it as we go.
All right, let's pull this. Oh, there we go. So, here we go. I've got a nice spreadsheet here. This is where all the magic starts. We've got basically every list from every team, which 100 lists, and basically just hours of reading lists over and over again, working out. So we looked at dice, points per list, how many platoons people had, and then splitting that platoons down even more into which platoons people had, and then kind of like the key points, looking at certain units that were expected to be big this year, or
Mm.
that were big in V2 to
Yeah.
see how that kind of changed things up.
Mm.
So yeah, big one was dice count.
Yeah.
Probably was looking now in V3 for the WTC was lower probably than what a lot of people were expecting.
Yes.
So I don't know what you made of that when it came to actually playing against people.
Well, I didn't face many of the low order dice count lists, so I couldn't really comment. But I know that the English team at least came with basically 14 point something as their average dice count, because a lot of them were playing 13 order dice lists.
Yeah, 13 and 14 for
Yeah.
all the England teams.
Yeah.
They were the lowest average dice count lists across the whole event.
Yeah.
So it's quite clear they got together and they knew they'd come up with something as a group.
Could you enhance that bit of it for us because I just wanted to show people something. Look at my team, USA 2, 20.2 on average. That wasn't me, by the way. That was Corey, because he had 34 order dice, right? So he really pulled the team up.
Now, looking back at Corey's list, and like before the event, there was a lot of chat from Alan, who captained USA 2, about these massive consummate lists.
Yeah.
And it seems now, I don't know whether you know this, but whether this was actually a clever ploy to try and put people off them, and then drop one in himself. So because nobody else went that big.
No, I think Alan got a little bit frightened by what Corey was sending him. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Is this even like? Are we allowing this?"
But the fact that you were the only people to try it actually at the event was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then the massive swing from the 34 dice at the top end to the 5 and 6 dice lists with the double heavy tanks.
Yeah.
Really, meant it was something different. It wasn't your run of the mill kind of thing you'd see.
It really was. And you have the spread of order dice counts as well somewhere here that we could see that, right? Yeah. There we have it. Exactly. So you can see here Corey is way in one end, right? With 34 order dice. And then we have sort of a pile up around 18, 17, 16 order dice, where most people are actually at.
Yeah. That's it. So it seems like 17, 18 is looking like the sweet spot at the moment. And we'll see how it goes from there, I guess.
Yeah. It drops off rather quickly, doesn't it? Down to in the 19, 20, 21 category. Not a lot of people were keen on going that high.
Yeah. Which I was expecting, say, maybe that graph to be shifted over 2 or 3 to the right. And we see a lot more of the 19, 20s, 21s.
Me as well.
So, the fact that it wasn't a nice curve like you love to see on statistics. It was very much we get up to 18 and bang, that was it. People were done.
One thing that could be a thing here is most people have figured out that at the WTC, your kill points are your secondaries. And you're going to give away a lot of kill points. If you have high order dice counts. Yeah,
and that's where your 5 and 6 dice lists, they were designed for those 2 missions.
To counter that,
Yeah.
Which is brilliant. So it for me, it wasn't expected. That I also expected a nicer curve, a bell curve, basically.
Yeah.
But I think there is an explanation for why it looks as it does.
Yeah.
And then the next one is what? Platoons per army?
Yeah, so we've got platoons per army just over here.
Yeah.
3 platoons was the favourite.
Yeah.
And then, that was kind of where a lot of people went with it. One thing, so I've then broke it down to the number of individual platoons. One thing I might do next time is look at the combination of platoons.
Yes.
Because a lot of people, well, especially the English, they were 1 rifle platoon, an armour platoon, and a recce platoon.
Yes.
And there was quite a few of those lists. So it'd probably be worth digging into that a bit more and seeing which platoon actually is the one that nobody wants, and which of the extra platoons after the armored platoon, because I think there wasn't many that didn't have an armored platoon. If we have a look,
exactly. I think the big surprise here for most people was the recce platoons that the English took. That recce platoons were so popular actually at the WTC because most people are not seeing the use for it. But it was really clever. What I think the English did. It didn't go well necessarily, but I mean, it was really clever that they had recce transports. So
if we have a
mostly
look,
mechanized, right?
Recce platoons. England had what have we got? 7. And the total was 15. So just under 50% of recce platoons
were English. Right.
We're English,
yeah. So there's definitely a meta thing that happened there where the English shifted towards recce platoons and most other people didn't.
No, exactly
armored platoons, almost everyone took armor, didn't they?
Yeah, practically everyone.
Except for certain lists, which I think were for very specific missions.
Yeah, that's it. And that was another thing that we found great with the 5 lists. Was that you had 3, maybe 4 all-rounders, and then some of the teams, they took 2 very different lists that they built tailored for very specific things.
Yeah.
So found probably it was kill points was the first one, and then the second one was for the fog of war missions.
Yes.
And that's what, having that ability to swap in and out really gave everybody something else to think about rather than just, I'm going to beat your list. You actually had to, they were building lists to beat scenarios as well.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I did too little work on because I wasn't the captain. So I didn't really mind. I sent in my list and said, is it okay that I play this? But I think had I been the captain, I should have done a lot of work on actually figuring out what lists are good for this mission, because that was clear once you read the lists, at least for me. A lot of people have been thinking very cleverly about how to beat the missions. I really like those. There was a double Storm Tiger list, right? Storm Tiger.
That was England 3. That one
and
was.
And a double Pershing list as well.
And that was England 2.
Which, I mean, and normally you wouldn't see those in tournaments because why would you bring that? You'll lose, but not if you play it in kill points because you're not going to lose any.
That's it. The Storm Tiger itself, because of the player that took that list, I would have been surprised to actually see a list from him without a heavy tank in it, because that's all Martin does. Is you go to an event and he will have a slab of plastic on the table and then he'll just fill it up with whatever else he's got. So, but then to see that had flowed into another England team and they'd gone down that route as well, it was good and interesting. Brilliant.
Another interesting thing that we can actually see here is the number of heavy platoons. When B3 came out, my gut reaction was that the heavy weapon platoon, that was gold. Damn, did I love that. But it's not very popular, is it?
No, there was not. Like heavy weapons, obviously, it's your machine guns and your mortars, and there wasn't as many as I thought we were going to see. There wasn't the kind of like mortar batteries that you might have expected, and there wasn't that many that actually paired the heavy weapons platoons to get the spotters from the mortars with the artillery platoons to get them
multi-launchers,
on multi-launchers and howitzers. So it was. It threw stuff up that I don't think anyone was really expecting.
Exactly.
And everybody had their own take. So.
Which is nice. Which gave us, at least for me as a player, it gave me a huge variety of lists that I was facing, which was brilliant.
That's it. No longer is it a case of you turn up and there's a Gurkha list with Stuarts, there's an engineering list with Stuarts, there's scouts with Stuarts. It was 4 or 5 really different things on every table.
We also can see that the engineer platoons weren't really popular, but that was more or less
Right.
to be expected. There are still
Yeah.
some players that bring them, and I think that's because in certain missions they're really good. Like,
Yeah.
still they can deliver that clear out the enemy punch that you sometimes want.
Yeah.
Um,
The Welsh like their flamethrowers, so
they
there
do,
was
yeah.
quite a few engineering platoons there, and a few people they bought them because of the additional buffs that they were given in demolition. So if you took
Mm,
your engineering platoon, it was
mm,
easier to actually
yeah,
win the game. In
yeah.
theory, obviously, dice rolls are dice rolls.
Yeah,
You,
well, and I did hear about a couple of blokes who had engineers on the opponent's objective
yeah,
and couldn't roll that dice to save their lives. Yeah,
that's it. So if you can't roll it, you can't win it. It's
exactly,
just
exactly. Um, then one of the other things that was really interesting was the number of company commanders.
yes. There we go. It was probably around 25% of lists had company commanders.
Mm,
And similarly to the Wrecker platoons, most of them were in the England teams.
yeah,
So they were, yeah,
they had clearly, because if you have for me, if you have a low orderized army and you have most of it in a couple of transports, basically, what I call clown cars, where
yeah,
you put multiple units in them, then you have a company commander and you can move in that bubble of that company
yeah,
commander.
that's it. He keeps things going because
Yeah,
you can take pins upon pins upon pins,
yeah,
and if he's in range,
yeah,
it's as if they weren't even there.
yeah. Um, so really clever attempt. I'm sorry that it didn't really work out for the English teams as such,
Yeah, kind of.
but
For all of them, they had a good show. In England 3 coming in fifth, that was
yes,
really good. England 1, obviously, they had their
yeah,
man down on the second day, which meant their
yeah,
Diglett couldn't really come off properly.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. And it happens with that many players. Like we were 80 players, right? And
yeah,
so
that's it.
with 80 players, someone is bound to get sick, right?
Yeah,
And
it,
yeah,
it's just happened to be England 1 actually for the last
yeah,
3 years. So
yeah, yeah. Well, the Germans also had a man down
yeah,
for their team, so Alessio
yeah,
was kind
German
enough to
2,
step
yeah,
into that one. But yeah, and it really does hurt the performance once you get to that point.
yeah.
So yeah. What else do we have on these statistics sheets here?
So on this one here, this is we're looking at the teams themselves. So this is where we see
Yeah.
looking at those special units, the things that people want to know about. I was taking requests as well for
Mm.
what people wanted to see, and just looking at who's dialing into what.
Yeah.
So, like as you can see on this one here, Flamers was very much a Welsh passion.
Yeah.
They were packed out. They
Hmm.
knew what they wanted to cook, and that's what
Mm.
they were going for.
Oh yeah. And by the way, USA
Yeah,
too, we're pretty close behind. Not
yeah,
on my list, so
yeah,
it was packed into other people's lists.
mm,
Again, yeah. Corey again with all the Komsomolets, so he
yeah,
had the order dice to move first, which was what he wanted. But the
yeah,
rest of them, they might pick a few here and there, but not as
yeah.
much. And
Most of the other teams, rather than being them spread like
mm,
out across everyone, most
yeah,
people had one list that
yeah,
was bang.
really heavy. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and kind of armor
And then
9
we
plus
have,
vehicles.
oh yeah, that is also an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, they are not the flavor anywhere, but it would seem in England. And
Yeah,
yeah,
because you
that's
can see, I mean, Tortuga, that was basically a Scottish slash English team, right?
yeah, that was a mixed bag.
A
We'll call them.
mixed bag. Warlord, of course, they were all English, so
Yep.
they weren't like
Yeah,
very meta thing, but no, they had a couple of these heavy vehicles. But then it's England 1, England 4, England 2, and England 3.
yeah,
All of them had these 9 plus vehicles.
yeah. They all that from talking to them, they were expecting the smaller vehicles,
Mm.
with the smaller guns, and they were hoping to get in there and kind of boss the fight a little bit with that extra bit of armor.
Yeah. Did you talk to them about how that actually went? That bit of their intention for the gameplay?
I think mixed results. So in the games where it worked, it really worked, and then in other games they kind of got stuck. So they weren't really losing too many vehicles, but they weren't making the impact on the game that they were actually looking for. And I think quite a few. There was quite a few Lees around, so they were looking for those with extra big guns on them as well, rather than just getting one big shot.
But the problem with the Lee is, though, it's vulnerable, which means that if the enemy has more dice than you, they can get up into your side armor, and then it gets iffy.
Yeah. Positioning was key for them.
Yes.
Go back to the old faithful snipers.
Right. And Warlord Games, their team. Oh man, did they have so many snipers? The rest of us, nah.
Yeah. Every team, every list had a sniper in it. I think it was with Warlord. Seeing this, my first thought was, do they know something that we've all missed? You know, is the sniper actually still good the automatic take? I don't think it was.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Although I will say, I had when in my game I played against Warlord against Ricky, and his sniper was placed on a hill behind. I helped him a little with the placement, so it was behind some cover on a hill. He could view most of the battlefield. He just locked down in lanes of fire, which meant that all my small officers and stuff couldn't really move, and we were playing sectors basically. So I had to move.
You had to get round him somehow.
Had to get round him, but so his sniper was actually kind of effective in our game. But you know, I don't think they did particularly well over the weekend with the snipers. So
with a lot of it, I think they have their point when they can be good. But it's going to be a 1 in 6 rather than a 5 out of 6 take.
Yeah, and I also think it really does depend on terrain quite a lot. And you can't control the terrain at the WTC. You get the table you get. So
ruins being flat as well now, rather than being able to get some height in them. That nerfs them a little bit.
It does.
So that's one's total dice. We've gone over that quite a bit already.
We have
SA2 leading the way. Observers.
Observers, that was a thing for me because I had 2 and I faced off against a lot of observers as well. So were there really that many observers as I think there was?
Yeah, there was a good number. Have I got the total? If we go combined, let's make the spreadsheet do the work for us. So 28 observers, and that's a mix of air and artillery.
Most of them artillery, but there were a couple of air observers in there, yeah?
Yeah, 5 air observers, 23 artillery.
Wow. That is a lot of wasted turns, especially if most of those were British, which I think they were.
Yeah. Oh, he's added that onto me table. Go away. There we go. That's better.
And if we look at that, who brought them? Like Germany won, even though they won the WCC, they hadn't got a single observer. So observers are not an auto include if you want to win.
No, it was USA 3, Warlord, and Tortuga. They were the 3 leading the way on observers. Yeah,
and they didn't do terribly well. I mean, USA 3 did okay, but Warlord and Tortuga were not like
down the bottom end.
Poland also didn't have any observers, and England won no observers.
And England 3 no observers as well.
No observers for England 3 as well. Yeah, true.
It was kind of like top 6. 50% of them didn't have any observers at all.
Yeah.
So then we'll move on to multiple
Multi-rocket.
rocket launchers.
Yes, that was very clear for me at least, and that also
Yeah.
shows in your statistics here.
Yeah. In the same way that England had gone, we are doing this, Germany appeared to have done the same.
Yeah.
They'd all gone together, and it was MRLs.
Yeah, and it's for both teams actually. So I think they've talked across teams, not just
yeah, definitely. I think it was more of a German decision rather than a Germany 1, Germany 2 kind of come up with it on their own.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. Yeah,
I think that's brilliant that the teams are actually kind of working as a full block rather than just four guys on their own trying to do their own thing.
And they're talking about it, and then they are actually bringing something to the table, which means that they have a certain way of viewing the game that's not necessarily meta driven, but it's their interpretation of what the meta is and their counter to it, which I love that. It's just so good.
It really helps the local meta, you know, because multiple rocket launchers at the top end, at the pointy end over here in England, I don't think you really see them that much anymore.
No.
Whereas, you know, clear Germany, they think they are still an answer to a question.
The results don't lie. I mean, Germany won. They won. So, and Germany too did fairly okay as well.
Yeah, they weren't too bad.
No,
they had a ringer on day one.
Yeah,
and then
Alessio did his best. I don't know
he did.
how well that was, but he did his best.
He went 1-1-1.
Yeah.
So
which a gentleman's result. Love that.
Yeah.
And then last one I've got here. Auto cannons.
Yes, that's what somebody specifically asked for this information. So after I'd done everything, I went back into the list, trawled through everything again. Sometimes it was easier than others because on some of the lists they hadn't put on the like the tanks and the AA vehicles, they hadn't actually put whether they'd bought the upgrade or not. So it was like checking points values. Is that pointed for this, pointed for that?
Yeah.
So, but USA won out in front with the light auto cannons.
Yes, they really brought a lot of them. I mean, 12. That is a lot, and this is not counting heavy autocannons, right? It's just the light ones.
Just light ones, yeah. So heavy ones, I would say, from when I was looking through the lists, were there, not in these kind of numbers, but probably about half as many. So still quite a few sitting around.
Why do you suppose that is?
I think people were liking with the light autocannons, liking to get behind you point blank and get that little bit of an extra oomph on it. Then, you know, with the light autocannon, if you're coming in the back in point blank, you can still damage reliably most things. So it tends to be on your nice nippy little vehicles that can hide, and then they'll pop out at the last minute on you.
Yeah. The funny thing here is, if I look at the Australian teams, the Australians did terribly well as well. Both of them actually. Australia 1 has 3 light autocannons. Australia 2 has 0 light autocannons. And like I have been, at least on this channel, promoting that I think autocannons in V3 are absolutely great.
Yeah.
But the Australians, they're not listening. They're doing like, nope, we're not doing that. We know better. And then they just went a completely different way. I love that.
Well, I think that's typical of the Australian meta. It's like V2, wasn't it? You know, their meta was very much different to what everybody else was talking about. And again, I think it's great that people are doing different things because it stops the game getting boring and stale.
Really does. Yeah. Right. Spurlie.
Yeah.
That is basically it, or what?
I think that is, that's everything I've got. So
thank you so much for doing all this work. It's been, I mean, this must have taken you hours.
Yeah, it was quite handy. My boss was on holiday, so I could do it in the day.
Right. Don't tell his boss.
Yeah, don't let him know.
But thank you for doing all the hard work, and thank you
Yep.
for coming onto the channel and talking us through it. It's really interesting for me to see, because it clearly shows, as you said, that there are differences, and they are profound differences between what people are doing here.
Yeah. Well, I would say if anybody has anything that they want digging out for when we do next year's event, let us know, because we can set it up earlier. And we're looking to put together a proper template that everybody uses. So if we've got that consistency, it should make it easier to then also pull all this kind of information out, because we can just get the spreadsheet to do the work for us.
Brilliant. And so you will be back for next year's event?
I think so, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
I'll be
will
there.
be
I'll be
in
there.
Denmark, I hope. So
yes. So I look forward to it. The land of Bow.
Yes. We will, and I will definitely be there. So I'll see you all. We will see you all next year in Denmark, April and May. See you then.
See you later.
That was it from us today. And as they say, like and subscribe or something like that. Whatever. That's it. Right. Cheers. See you, Spurlie.
Thank you.
And